What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Creature Cast, the official Console Creatures podcast. I'm your host today, Steve Vegvar, and alongside me, as always, my pal Bobby. How the heck are you this week?
Beautiful, Steve. It's beginning of the week. I feel like I'm gonna cry, but other than that, it's good.
Yeah.
You
I
know how
mean,
it
it's,
is.
it's just a it's just a Monday, just a regular old Monday. But
We're going on
otherwise,
Monday,
yeah,
galaxy far, far away. Let's just say that.
let's just say that. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, yeah, we're here for a very special occasion. We're here to talk about Star Wars Outlaws once again. This time in a much wider, broader capacity. We both have gone hands-on
hmm
with the game again off the heels of Summer Game Fest, where at the Ubisoft Forward we spent about like an hour with the
Yeah,
game, playing through 3 vertical slices, and now this time we spent way more time. I think about 3.5 hours, 4 hours, somewhere in there each,
yeah.
playing through ostensibly much larger vertical slices similar to the last preview, but we've gotten to see way more of the game now. I have a whole bunch of new perspectives and probably opinions on the game as well, now that we're leading into the late August release. I mean, it's right around the corner. The game's gone gold at this point.
Yep.
Ubisoft Massive is now on the tail end of development, so now it's just polishing, now it's just getting it out the door. And yeah, they got media, content creators and everything, more hands-on time. So I'm really excited to talk about this because I have varying opinions on a whole bunch of different things. Like, we got to see things we never saw last time, whether it's the speed bikes, more of the open world aspects, more of the side quests, more of the little details and things that you're going to be able to do in Star Wars Outlaws outside of just the core missions
hmm
and flying the Trailblazer. So, yeah, Bobby, I want to talk to you, pass it over to you after another 3.5, 4 hours of the game. How are you feeling about Star Wars, like top level?
Top level. Like I think it's gonna be a big hit for Ubisoft. So I mean, I was that person who was very apprehensive about open world Star Wars, especially from Ubisoft, and I'm eating my words. Like I'm eating crow on this one
Mm,
because I mean, one, it's by Ubisoft Massive, who we all know made the Division, and we all know how good the Division is. So I should have had a little bit more faith. But yeah, I'm pretty much ready to go for launch day.
yeah.
I spent 4 hours with it in total. It's not a Jedi game, and I love that about this game. It has nothing to do with Jedi at this point, from what I've experienced. So I'm eager to finally get something that's not, you know, tied to the Force, which is, a first in how long? 30 years of
A very
games.
long time. Yeah.
30 years of games. So yeah. So yeah, overall I'm happy, I'm excited, I'm ready for this game. It looks and sounds pretty cool from what I've experienced.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way with you. I had, you know, high hopes for Ubisoft Massive. I'm a big fan of the Division, big
Yep.
fan of Star Wars in general. So it was a kind of like a marriage between two properties, two things that I really like. Coming into the first demo we played, coming out of it, I felt very positive. I was like, man, I'm really liking these different sections, whether or not
Mhm.
it's talking about, level design, traversal, and then the stealth-based mechanics, shooting mechanics, flying the Trailblazer, the ship and everything. I'm really liking it. Coming out of this one, I have more nitpicks than I wanted, to be honest.
Mhm.
I think that there are some things that it does incredibly well. I think a lot of the things I was kind of concerned about or wanted to see more of, those are the things that this demo really helped me understand and got me more excited about the game. But then looping back to concerns or criticisms I had last time, I'm also double downing on those and being like, there's still aspects of this game that really aren't clicking for me, and I'm hoping that maybe by the time I get my hands on the full game, I'm going to be able to contextualize those a little bit more rather than sit in this kind of like distilled 3-hour experience, feel like I have to rush through it in some ways, see everything, and
Yeah.
maybe that just spoiled my opinion on it in some ways. We'll talk about those, but it is kind of one of those things where I have to separate myself from playing in this kind of controlled demo environment versus how I'm going to end up playing it on my couch like a
Yeah.
little slob boy later next month. But yeah, let's kind of talk about it because the demo was essentially split into two different areas. The first one was basically the bulk of the demo, at least for me. I don't know about you, but it starts out with Kay and Vess. They're in the Trailblazer, their ship. They crash land on this planet
Yeah.
called Tashara. You're introduced to Waka, who's an engineer, and kind of becomes, Kay's man in the ear. He's communicating with her for a lot of it, kind of giving her the lay of the land of this planet. The planet and the area that you're kind of exploring is called Mirugana, which is this Pike-controlled city. Pikes are one of the syndicates that you'll get to meet. Basically, either form relationships with or be able to betray and everything. But essentially, Kay and Nix have to go to the city, forge alliances, or betray a certain syndicates in order to get parts to fix the ship, get them to Waka, and then essentially leave at some point.
Yep.
But yeah, I guess right off the top of it, you're introduced to two new mechanics, at least for us, which is, hey, we get to be on the speeder bike for once. I'm so excited for that. And then the other one is what they called the adrenaline meter, which is this new gunfire mechanic in which once it's all built up, you get to mark and target 3 enemies and kill them with their blaster. It's similar to like Red Dead's Deadeye mechanic, where like time basically stops. You go, okay, I want to hit this person, this person, this person. Then time fast forwards, and Kay just goes boom, 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 and headshots all of them, kills them right away. It's really cool. Bobby, how did it feel getting on the speeder bike? How did it feel getting into the open world, these open areas, speeding around? You can also do the adrenaline meter, like gunshots on the
Yeah.
speeder bike too. I thought that was really cool. Talk to me here.
Yeah, so I mean, let's start with that. I mean, I like you said, there are things I'm apprehensive about, but the speeder is not one of them. I feel like it's a great little tool that K has, and it's just like it's instantaneous. You call it, it shows up. It's a blast just to explore. Like, you got into Ashara, and I didn't really have any boundaries. They kind of just said there are obviously ones you'll come across in this demo, but other than that, like, I had a pretty free reign of where I want to go, what I want to do, and it worked. I mean, I got there pretty quickly. There's some races you could do on the speeder. There's obviously treasure hunts you can do. There's like bounties you can collect on these. Like, there is a lot of opportunity to use the speeder on Toshara. I just didn't really want to spoil too much going into like the full release, because I want to do that on my own time. But it's fun. Like, it's fun. It's pretty fast. I have nothing bad to say about it. I think it's a great addition. I'm glad that it's there. I'm just hoping maybe we can update it, or like, change its appearance a little bit, maybe on the sidelines. But it's a great. It's probably my favorite thing that we never saw last month or in previews, because they've always been, I don't know. I don't want to say they were hiding the speeder, but it feels like they were.
Yeah,
but they
no, I
should
totally agree.
have been leading with it. They should have led with this, because it's such a cool thing to just call your speeder and you're there, and you can just take off wherever you want to go. And I loved using the adrenaline shot just on that bike. It's like, well, you see 3 syndicate members are chasing you, and your adrenaline meter's filling up. So what do? You tap the joysticks and you just pin them, and you knock them off their speeders, and they're gone. And you just continue on. It's so seamless. That's what I liked about it. It's just the whole process is seamless. And Ubisoft's pretty good at that. Like, kudos to them for that. I know that some people don't like their open worlds, but it doesn't feel like a Ubisoft open world. There's no, whatever they called it. There's no points of contention. There's no high points. Right. There's no Far Cry towers. There's none of that. It's just the open world. It's there, and it just feels seamless. Like, you can just get from here to there. There's activities in between, and they feel different. It's not just a base here you have to clean out. It's like, you go here, there's potentially some little village, there's hiding some treasure, or you can go further down and you can do a speed, like I said, speed rate. You can do speeder races, or you could go further in and find like a Pike Syndicate establishment. You're not supposed to take it over. You're supposed to You can't even do that. Like, I actually got rejected. They told me don't even come near it. Like, they basically threw me out and I couldn't proceed. So
Yeah.
it was small things like that. It feels different than what I'm expected, and I wish people would see that it feels like a new establishment at Ubisoft, that they're finally doing things that don't feel so cookie cutter, and
I
that's where I'm
agree.
kind of
Yeah.
living with it. It just doesn't feel like a Ubisoft game at this point. It feels really good.
Yeah, it feels more like you would hope a Star Wars game feels.
Yeah,
Yeah, to your point, as soon as you get on, yeah, you're attacked by these like pike members who kind of chase you on their own speeder bikes. There's a like mechanic in which you can just like shoot the speeder bike like into them, like crash into them,
yeah,
knock them off, or knock them off your tail and stuff like that. There's also some like organic wildlife in there. There's like, I don't know, a space rhinoceros or something
yeah. I
that like
saw that.
started just like coming into, yeah, and just like started like chasing me, and I had to like get away, veer off and everything. There's also jumps and stuff like that. It does make it more of a like an active fun playground than I I know what you mean, like a Far Cry almost, where it is kind of
Yeah,
cookie cutter. We've been here before. It's kind of meandering, and it's yeah, yeah. You're just going from point A to point B. Sure, you might be able to hunt or do stuff like that. That's not really what you're getting here. You are doing more of events or stuff like that, or treasure hunts, like you were saying, or like going into a pike, like a smaller pike base. You're not going there to take it over or kill everyone there. You're going in probably just to get some schematics, getting some data, so get some coins and stuff like that, and then go back into like the main city there so you can barter and stuff like that, buy new upgrades and
yeah,
use items and weapon pieces that you've discovered to then upgrade your blaster and stuff like that, which I find way more rewarding than hey,
yeah.
I just, you know, off 20 nameless pike members and now I have a base for no reason because Katie has no ownership over this area. So thematically and more in line with Star Wars, it makes more sense that Kay would go in, be stealthy, be hidden, and kind of rob this place blind, and then leave on her speeder bike. So so there's a lot of fun there.
Yeah,
By the
that's what I.
time,
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
that's kind of what I was thrown off by. Is it's fun, and Ubisoft's like Far Cry or whatever. It got to the point where it was never enough to be. It was never fun. It was just like it was just monotonous to me. I feel like that's the best way I can describe it. Is you're just running on a treadmill at this point. You're just going through the
Mhm.
motions, completing these tasks just to move forward. And I didn't get any of that with this game. There were a couple of issues I had with the gameplay, but we can discuss that later. I mean,
Sure.
I feel that's just remnants of Ubisoft's development. I don't know, book, their dictionary, their thesaurus, whatever they want to call it. It's just things that I feel like they need to get away from. Still, they're still there, and bring the experience down.
Yeah. After that, you kind of get to this big big city. It's basically like an underbelly city in which you're supposed to go to this pike syndicate leader called Gorak, who's supposed to give Kay work and hopefully in the end give Kay resources in which she can get the parts that she needs. That doesn't essentially go the way that Kay wants, and then she meets up with Danka, a local broker, who then sends her off on into her own little quest. You're basically put out to go infiltrate a Pike Syndicate base, grab some data, bring it back to her, kind of like a more involved fetch quest in a way. But this is really when I started getting a real grasp of the reputation system in the game, which is something that Ubisoft Massive has really been trying to focus on and kind of
Yeah,
prioritize. Is that, hey, along this entire narrative here, you're going to be interacting with 4 different syndicates, which is the Pike, the Crimson Dawn, the Hutt Cartel, and then the Ashiga clan. And essentially, you're able to build reputation with one in exchange of just screwing over or betraying the other. It's this whole like mix and mingle. Who do you want to align with? Who do you want to
yeah,
betray? Do you want to just be this, uh, rebel without a cause? And it's a really cool system in that you kind of alluded to it before, but like there'll be bases in which you might be able to just be welcomed in open arms depending on
yeah,
your reputation, or they'll just straight up be like, no, you can't get in here, and then you'll have to find a different way if you're going to like stealth your way in, and then in which you have to avoid everyone in there because they'll alert the guards and stuff like that immediately.
And
Yeah,
that was
we so yeah, within the first like couple hours of the demo, we're basically given opportunities to then, yeah, go in, complete a mission, and then at the very end, you're essentially given a choice of like, hey, do you want to align with this syndicate or that syndicate? And you can kind of just it's almost like a telltale game kind of sort of thing where it's like, okay, if you do this, you're going to get maybe a higher payout, but you're going to screw this syndicate over or vice versa. It's what do you think about this whole reputation system?
I think it's a great addition to this game, and I kind of wish more games would do it because I mean,
Hmm.
it incentivizes you to pick one over the other, and you have to kind of pick one over the other because you can't basically win favor with everybody. You basically have to screw one to get a favor with the other
Right.
one. So you kind of have to weigh who you want to align with. And for me, it was always the Pike Syndicate because they are in charge of this planet and Toshara. So it's like, well,
Yep.
they have all these warehouses here. I could probably get better credits with them. I can get better jobs. The weapons are probably better, so it's like just stick with them. And there are a couple of missions. I'm sure you probably did. I think it was the second mission that we did, where you have to frame either the Crimson Peak,
Crimson Dawn.
Crimson Dawn. Crimson Peak's a good movie.
Yep.
Crimson Dawn Syndicate, or give Gorak the information. So
Mhm.
I kind of got stuck there. I was like, who do I want to screw over with this one? Because I mean, both kind of were offering me some good incentive to stick with them, but at the end of the day, Gorak was basically, I don't know, like he when you met him the first time, he didn't kill you, he didn't threaten you. He's just like, just come back when you've earned some respect with us. So I was like, okay,
Yep.
so I did that. I followed what he said. I followed his words, and it paid off. Like I ended up getting into his good graces, and it gave me access to a couple of the local warehouses. And I didn't have to fight with a lot of the guards that were there. They just kind of acknowledged that I was there and let me move through them. And that was
Mhm.
why I love the system because it like I said, incentivizes you to really think of your choices of who you want to screw over and how you want to play. Because you're a rogue. You obviously you're not a great person, so you obviously can't be a Jedi. So you got to pick your battles, and
Yep.
that's kind of what I like
Yep.
about this.
No,
It's shades of gray.
it is. It is. Like there's another moment where the first time you meet Gorak,
Yeah,
you're introducing yourself to him and everything, and Nyx like goes in, steals his ring, and then you leave, and all of a sudden, Nyx is like, haha, got this
yeah,
ring and everything. And then later down the road, Gorak like calls you out and he's like, oh, you clearly have my ring. And then you have the chance of being like, okay, own up to it, give it back to him, or just lie and keep it for yourself. What
yep.
I'm kind of curious though is as the game goes on, what these different choices are going to amount to, or if they are unfortunately kind of like fluff and stuff like this doesn't really matter, in which the narrative is always going to be the same no matter what the choices are. K is always going to get to X, Y, and Z.
Mhm.
I'd be a little disappointed in that, knowing how many choices are going to be in this game, how much urgency it kind of
Yeah,
puts on the player of like, okay, if you really want to just go pure, hot cartel, what's that end result going to be? Like, does the Pike get taken down completely? Does the Empire take down the Pikes, or like really, what's the incentive to really align yourself or
yep.
not even align yourself with any? I'm very curious in that because yeah, so far in 4 hours, I'm seeing like the breadcrumbs of like, yeah, we're talking about being able to enter certain areas or have a better payout with missions and stuff like that.
Yep.
But beyond that, in the grander scheme of things, I'm still not understanding what the end goal is of having these choices. Or maybe really isn't one, and it is just kind of that surface level. Hey, if I just keep buttering up the Pikes or the Crimson Dawn, they're just gonna feed me more money, and that can go towards, cosmetics and upgrades for my blaster and stuff like that.
And that's what it comes down to. Is like, how invested is Ubisoft in this system? Because I mean, I'm invested in it.
Mhm.
I know you're
Yep.
invested in it, so it's like, is the payoff going to be worth it? And I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I mean, it's Ubisoft Massive. I am eating my words on that. They are a good studio. They clearly respect the property enough to take their time with it. I mean, what we've played kind of gives me that intention that they're giving off. That they want to do it right. And I'm sure
Yep.
Disney is also kind of in their ear saying, well, this is not good enough, so do better. So I feel like it's not
Yeah.
just Ubisoft at this point. It is Disney kind of just like, guiding them with, ideas and suggestions. And I feel like that would probably make a big difference in this game. And that's exactly what I feel like we're getting, is a big difference from what Ubisoft normally produces. So it all kind of just lines
Mm.
up to me.
Yep. Yeah. No, absolutely. Because as far as like, keeping it within the Star Wars canon and the lore and stuff like that, there are going to be have to be like major beats or stuff like that
No.
Ubisoft Massive kind of adheres to in regards to LucasArts and the Star Wars universe at this point. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, this game takes place between Empire and Jedi. Is that correct?
Yep, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. So it's a familiar area in terms of Star Wars lore for a lot of fans. So they're not going to be able to go too crazy with it. It's not all of a sudden, hey, we're going to be able to kill Jabba the Hutt or anything like that. But it'll be interesting to see how far they're willing or able to kind of push the envelope in terms of its
Yeah.
narrative storytelling.
And that's all you can ask for in this kind of game. I mean, we obviously know that the movies are always going to take precedent, so that's cool. That's fine. Let the games kind of push the envelope of where they can kind of take it without breaking the canon. So, and I feel like that's what we're going to get here.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty positive we're going to see something cool in August with this game. So I feel like, it will excite, not just in gameplay, but I feel like the story has a lot of potential from what I've at least experienced. And I don't know if you got the same vibe, but it feels like it's not just, a cookie cutter story. It's whatever Kay's journey is. I'm invested in it because it gave me enough mystery to just kind of want to be, follow it. And that's
For
kind of what I
sure.
like about it. It wasn't just like, hey, it's just like, good versus bad. Who is Kay and what's her story? Because I mean, we kind of know some things, but we don't know enough to kind of, guess where she's going or who she was or who she is. So it's like, I like that about this game.
Well, I think it's also exploring an area or an aspect of Star Wars that I think a lot of people have been asking for, which is the criminal underbelly of Star Wars. Something that the now
Yeah, fair.
canceled Star Wars 1313 was supposed to be. It was supposed to be that Boba Fett game, that game that would you're a bounty hunter, you're exploring like the criminal underbelly, this like dark and shady aspect of Star Wars. And I think a lot of people have kind of been yearning for that. We're also getting that kind of in Mandalorian, which is this whole idea that there are characters in this world that are just taking bounties. They're doing odd jobs and stuff like that. And Kay's kind of like that. She's not a bounty hunter by any means, but she's more of
No,
like a Han Solo rogue. She's completing these missions and kind of doing the dirty work for these criminal organizations. I think that's really cool. And yeah, to your point, I think it sets up some interesting avenues for a good story that again, still after 4.5 hours, I don't know what the larger, broad story here is. I don't know what Kay's overall mission is, but
yeah.
I'm eager to see. Like, I like the character. I
It
like
doesn't need to
her.
be big though. That's the thing. It doesn't need to be
No, it
like
doesn't.
this
No, that's
huge.
true.
And like that's what I like about it. It's not just like, hey, we need to stop the Sith or like Emperor Palpatine has returned. It's just underbelly, shady stuff, and I like that. And I'm seeing some people online, like I'm reading people saying, I just want a Jedi game. And it's like we've gotten so many of those. I don't want another one.
Same.
This is different. I know it's a third person shooter, but who cares? It's not, the high and mighty Jedi Order. Like I love that. Like I don't care about the Jedi Order at this point. I want something different. And I would have loved to see a Boba Fett game. I would love to see a Mandalorian game, but the next best thing is a Rogue. So let's roll with it. Let's see what happens. Like, give it a chance. And like, I just don't understand that opinion of the Jedi is the only interesting in Star Wars. And it's like, no, it's not. There's so many cool things that are clearly there that should look at. Like, look at Andor. Andor was a great series, and it had nothing to do with Jedi. Absolutely zero.
Yep. No, absolutely. I totally agree. And I think there's untapped potential here. I think there's a lot to kind of explore. moving on, we kind of talked about being able to infiltrate bases, having to be stealthy, and really what a lot of the gameplay that at least I experienced in my playthrough was having Kay go in very quietly into these bases and use Nyx as kind of this companion in which you can order him to go distract an enemy or go and reach a hard to reach panel or something like that to open up a door and stuff like that. What do you think about like this whole idea that a large portion of Outlaws seems to be predicated on being stealthy and it's not all going guns blazing with the blaster? What's your take on this?
Um, I like it. I don't like its execution, and I'm gonna explain what I'm saying. Ubisoft has this bad habit of insta fail missions, and that's what
Yes.
these stealth missions are, and I absolutely despise it. I think it's the stupidest thing
Yep.
you could do because it ruins the flow. It makes me not want to play the game, and that's what was happening under my demo. I got a situation where you have to infiltrate Gorak's base, blah blah blah. You got to get these parts for your blaster, and like that's cool. But the second you get in there,
Mhm.
you can't use your gun, which is stupid. Let's say,
Yep.
okay, don't restrict the gun. Like just let me use the tools I have. And like, why can't I use my gun to like shoot something to distract an enemy instead of just Nyx? It's small things like that because as soon as you're caught, you start from the beginning, and it's frustrating because it's not just like right outside the base. You got to go through a whole section just to get back there. And I got caught like 3 or 4 times at the beginning just because I feel like it was a mix of the delay on the demo that I had, and I
Okay.
guess maybe the way the camera was reacting to my movements, and it wasn't clear where I would have to go sometimes, and that's what kind of threw me off. So I'd go somewhere, I'd get caught because I wasn't going in the right direction, but I mean there was no indicator of where I should go,
So
and
can I
that's what.
ask you, was this the big area in which like the TIE fighters were in the middle and you had the option of going like straight and around or across different platforms
Yep, it was that
on the
one.
left?
Yep,
Yeah, that was the exact same. I got caught and
because it
I'm
doesn't tell
not
you what
even
to
trying to
do.
be. It doesn't tell you where to do. It doesn't tell you even like it lets you go into this open room and it just says have at it. And it's so open that it's almost a little overwhelming, especially for a stealth game.
Yeah,
And it took me, you're saying like 4 or 5. I was stuck on it for about 10 tries because I literally had no idea where I was supposed to go until I realized, hey, I can go above the room over these platforms,
yeah,
distract a drone or wait for the drone to come by me, swing
and that's
over, and
yeah.
it was so frustrating. And this was kind of what I was talking about earlier, where it was like, I probably would have had a better time with this had it not been, hey, Steve, you have, 3.5 hours with this demo. I feel like the clock's running down on me. I have a demoist watching me this entire time. I feel like I'm getting judged by every time I
Yep.
fail this aspect of the game. And yeah, the moment that you get caught, the alarms start going off, and then it's just an auto fail state, and the loading time didn't seem all that forgiving. I was kicked back all the way to the start of the section. It just
And it's
wasn't
annoying.
very fun.
No,
And it was,
not at
yeah,
all.
it just kind of bogged down what was an otherwise pleasant experience leading up until that point.
And that's exactly what it was. It's just it doesn't it if you're trying to be a Hitman game, be a Hitman game. Like let me use what might have in my arsenal to get through the level. And that was the vibe I was getting from that section is it's like, there's no guidance. So it's like have at it. Do what you
Right.
want to do. So I did what I
Yep.
wanted to do. Like the first time I went through the underground section because you can go underground and then you can pop up
Oh,
through
I
the
didn't even know
grates.
that. I
And
didn't
you
even
can
know that.
yeah, like there's ways to do like there's so much you can do, but the second you're caught, it's done. And it's like, why?
Yep.
Pivot. Let me shoot them. Or let me like or how is there no like sleeper darts or something? Something to put these guys to sleep. Or like have Nyx
Well,
like knock
that
them out.
my whole thing was that so you have I think it's called the ion blaster. It's the
Yeah.
electrical one where you can use it to electrocute like doors and stuff to open them up. Even before getting to that section, there's a point where there's two roaming guards going down a hallway, and at the
Yeah.
end there's a camera. And I walked up and I was like, "Oh, cool." They went past the camera. I'm going to shoot the camera with the ion blaster. That's going to disable it. and I can go through the door. So I do that, hit the camera with it, and then the alarms start going off anyways. I was like, but I feel like I have this ability to negate the camera.
Yeah,
Why aren't I able to do that?
that's what
Again,
blows my
maybe
mind.
it's because we're just not used to the quote unquote the rules of the game yet, and we're just kind of thrown into this. Hey, play as you want and kind of discover as you want kind of thing. Maybe there is a tutorial way earlier in the game to kind of explain the stealth rules a little bit better. But as far as the demo was concerned, I was very thrown off and kind of frustrated with this specific aspect of the demo.
And it's a not even specific aspect. It feels like it's going to be a significant aspect of the game. So it's like, if that's what it's going to be throughout the whole game, I don't see the reviews being very kind to it, because you know what happened with
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed and the instant fail sections. People were furious and they hated it, and points were dinged
Mhm.
off a lot of reviews for it. And I feel like if that's what it's going to be, I'm going to ding points off it for that, because
Yep.
in 2024, why are we still doing that? Why?
I
There's a
don't know. And
instant
I
fail is
had
the worst thing.
conversations with yeah, I had conversations with other people who played the demo, the same demo that we did, and I asked them, I was like, did you experience like the auto fail section and kind of, have a your
Yeah,
head banging against the wall a little bit? And they're like, yeah, it was kind of frustrating. So I don't feel like it's just us. I feel like general players that are listening to this, you might not like these sections, and that kind of sucks. I understand the vision for it of, hey, you have this wide open area. Like you're saying, I didn't even know that you could go underneath the ground, like through vents and stuff. I'm assuming. I didn't even know that that existed. All I saw was that there were like two veering paths that I could kind of take and kind of sneak by guards and stuff like that. But inevitably, I got to a section where you just couldn't sneak past the guards anymore. They would one there were too many of them, so one would inevitably just look at me, and then all of a sudden the alarms would go off, and yeah, it's just frustrating. So I
and
really hope that maybe it's just a case of it's just this section, and maybe they're a little more refined, a little more tightened up in future
yeah.
areas of the game. But if it's a lot of this, I'm I don't know if I'm gonna be enthused to go through a lot of it.
And the other thing I noticed is when you finally figure out you can, use your grappling hook to get across those platforms, and you see that robot
Mhm.
that's kind of, he's monitoring, the room. He's just on guard. If you shoot at it, it'll like react and it'll fall and it'll alert everybody. And then basically
Yep,
you have to
that
start over.
happened to me too.
And it's like, well, what's the point
Yep.
of that if I can't knock it out? So
Yep.
it's just it
Yeah.
feels like you don't have the support of the developer to play their game the way you want to play it. And I feel like that's a bad game design mistake.
No,
So
that I totally feel that because yeah, I felt like, you get that aha moment. I was like, I fucking figured
yeah,
it out. I did it. I finally did it.
yeah,
You get platform to platform. I was like, cool. Now I know that this drone's coming back and forth, back and forth. Once he gets
yeah.
into like my purview, I'm just gonna, hit it with the ion blaster. It's gonna be
Go down.
disabled for a couple times, and then I can swing across and go from there. Hit it, goes down, the alarms go off. I was like, God damn it. And then
But
you
the
get
ion
booted back to the
but, but even the ion blaster, it doesn't like knock it out. It actually makes it explode, which makes even less sense because it's just an electrical shock which should short circuit the thing and just it falls. But it doesn't. It like explodes in air and like just hits shrapnel at everybody. And it's like, well, what's the point of that? So it's like, I don't know. I don't get why they're doing these things that don't make sense to me. And
no,
I've tried to
no.
justify it, but and any way I put it, it just no. I feel like it's just bad game design, and I really hope that this month of polish fixes these mistakes, because like it will bring the score down from where I hope it is to where I know it's going to be.
Yeah. Or I mean, hopefully developers can hear this criticism ahead of time, hear our thoughts and opinions, and maybe be able to fine tune and change it in a little way. Maybe make the guards not so reactive during stealth areas. I don't know. But I agree with you. It's hard to justify in some ways.
Yeah,
Um, but outside of that, I thought the mission design, the mission objectives and stuff like that, they were interesting and made me continue playing. Like I
yeah.
still had fun seeing all the missions all the way through. But yeah, that section was
The most
part of
frustrating
what we
thing.
had already played. it was the most frustrating thing. It was also part of what we already played back in Summer Game Fest at the Ubisoft Forward, where
Mhm.
at the end, Cade gets onto the ship, blasts off into space. You're into some dogfighting areas and stuff like that. Again, echoing what I said before, I really like the dogfighting. I really like how the Trailblazer
Same.
handles in space. It's a lot of fun.
I mean,
We're also
if
sorry, go ahead.
I
Yeah,
mean, let's just I want to acknowledge this. I mean, Ubisoft released Starlink like 8 years ago. At this point, I feel it's been a while, but
sure.
they did a really good job with that game, and I feel like they finally found a good way to bring what they learned in that game to a new property with Star Wars. So like, I'm glad that's there. I love the dog fighting. It feels really good. It handles really well, and it's probably the most fun I've had playing a starship fighter in a long time. So
Mhm.
yeah, like I was pretty positive about that. Like I love going through the nebula, finding the treasure on the cache ships, and it's cool. I
Yep.
want more of that. I hope there
Yeah,
is a lot more.
like I said before, I do put it pretty close to Starfield's like dogfighting and ship mechanics because I think they're
Yeah,
both very strong. I think I don't know if I'm alone in this, but a lot of flying games, I feel like there's often times where I just lose where the enemy is or where I'm even like what my orientation is here. I never felt that in Outlaws. I always felt like in control of what my peripherals, what my point of view was, and that felt really good. I never felt like it was, you know, off kilter or anything like that. The other thing that I thought was really cool is that while you're, flying through space and stuff, there's treasure hunting avenues there as well. You can find, things you can pick up and kind of use to pawn off later on or upgrade your stuff. And I thought that was pretty cool. It's not just, hey, you're out in the middle of nowhere in space and there's really nothing to do. Yeah, you're fighting other ships, you're exploring. Like there, space is an area to explore, which I was very happy with.
yeah, that's exactly it. I
Yeah,
want more. I want more of that. So like, I feel like we'll get a
me too.
decent amount of it.
Yeah,
Yeah, and that was pretty brief. I know mine was about like 5-10 minutes, and then they kind of
it was. Yeah.
they wanted to push us into the next demo, which is fine because
Mhm.
we know the bread and butters on the planets, and you know more stealth sections, which we ended up doing again, which kind of was annoying, but whatever. And I know that's kind of what Ubisoft is kind of push with this game. It's you're like a stealthy play. You're a stealthy character. You don't want to be seen, which is fine. But yeah, well,
Mhm.
I mean,
Yep.
what did you think of the next section? I know that it was also at Summer Game Fest. It was just a little
Yep.
bit more expanded upon, and like
Way
I
more
like how it
expanded on.
started. Yeah, way
Yep.
more. And I did like it, but it fell into that same trap of stealth. And I'm like, again, we don't not every mission needs stealth. And that's what
It
we had.
did, but I felt like it had the option of like, hey, get into this area, be a little stealthy, and then you at a certain point it was, hey, you can continue being stealthy in this like larger area while you're
Yeah.
infiltrating this Crimson Dawn base. But at a certain point, it's like you even get it in your ear. It's like, okay, you're good now. Okay, you can either continue being stealthy if you really want to, or
Yeah.
this is the time to bring out your blaster and you can start hitting hitting enemies there. And that's what I kind of like is that ownership over. Hey, do you want to play stealthy? Do you want to put more emphasis on the perks and upgrading abilities for stealth, or do you want it to be more in tune with just pulling out your blaster and just hitting enemies? Because the other cool thing is that when enemies die, you can pick up their weapons. So there was like an assault rifle I picked up. There was at one point a sniper rifle with like this kind of like charge beam. So it's not just, hey, you're playing just okay, just as like this stealthy rogue. She has viable options in terms of
Yep.
an arsenal. There's grenades and stuff like that. So red barrels to explode, and the shooting mechanics feel really good. And I think
Yep.
that pairing the stealth with some actual, like bona fide gunplay and stuff like that, that's where the game excels the most is when you can
Yep.
actually choose what you want to do.
Yep. That's what I agree
Yeah.
with you on. It sorry. Oh boy, long day. It feels really well. It handles really well. I love the gunplay, but
Yep.
not having the ability to have like a backup woman kind of throws me off. Like
Mm,
it feels like Uncharted in that way too. I mean, like you
it
obviously
does.
can pick up a second gun, but it's not forever. Like it's basically for that level, for that section, and then you basically just drop it and you move on. And like I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's like, why? I
Yep.
I feel like if it was me in that situation, I would always have two weapons. So it's like, why not let me have it? Why not just let Kay have a gun on her back where she can kind of swap between them?
Yep.
But I mean, whatever. The blaster's still a lot of fun. The fact that
It
there's
is.
no ammo to worry about is good, so that's fine. So I guess the trade off is there, and it has
Yeah, yeah,
different.
it has like there's a really cool like Gears of War reload system
Yeah,
where like an active reload if you hit the button right at the right time. Um, it feels really good, really rewarding. But I do agree. I wish that there was some sort. But again, I don't know how much emphasis is going to go into leveling up and kind of refining the blaster
yeah,
over time because I do understand that hey, if you're spending 50 hours with K, spending all this time unlocking new different ammo types like the ion blaster. And then there's a third one that we opened up in the demo as well, which was like more of like an explosive shot. I think that's really cool. And I think that will really make the choice of having one weapon meaningful if that you're spending that much time just upgrading and refining that one weapon versus, hey, now K has an arsenal, which is, a sniper rifle or a rifle and other stuff like that. Then you kind of get like bogged down a little bit in some way, but yeah, I feel like that's an aspect that I'll have to spend more time with in
yep.
the full game. Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
what I think.
What
Yeah,
did you think of the second area? Like Kijimi City is more of like a wintry vibe. You're there as like it's a Crimson Dawn city. So if by the time you get there and hey, you've really screwed these people over, it's not going to go over too well for you. You might be blocked out of infiltrating a couple areas more. You might have a harder time getting around, but it's a way different than the previous city, which was
yeah.
way more deserty, kind of Tatooine vibes. What did you think of the two, and how they compared?
They feel very different. Even not even just
Mhm.
layout wise, like just the mood there. Every Toshara was a little bit more hopeful, and it was a little more colorful, and it felt more Star Warsy than most planets that Star Wars games have. Like I didn't really get that feeling in like Star Wars Jedi, for example. I never got that feeling.
Sure.
I got to Shara, I'm like, well, this is Star Wars right away. Just looking out onto the horizon, you can see like it feels like it's right out of the movies. And then you get to the second planet, and it had it felt like Hoth. It felt like Hoth in a way.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It was
Absolutely.
it had that Star Wars vibe. It had that snowy vibe. There was a
Mhm.
clear sense of you could feel like the tension in the air because Crimson Dawn was overseeing the area. Like it wasn't as free spirited as Toshara. Like that's like a cantina town, cantina city. This place here, you go there and basically it's like on lockdown. You can't do much, and it feels like they're under oppression, and you can kind of feel that just by entering, the gates. And it's like, well, there's no one around. You can't enter any buildings, and you only can,
Mhm.
basically, get to your next destination, and that's it until whatever.
Yeah.
It feels like we're probably gonna, save that outpost from the Crimson Syndicate later on, and that's likely what I feel is gonna happen. But the first time you get there, yeah, you could tell they they did a good job with the atmosphere in these worlds. I do have one kind of hope. I kind of hope we get like a watery city full of like color and
Ooh.
like
Yeah.
water. And yeah, I feel like they're nailing the environments really well. And I feel like you probably agree with me on that.
Yep.
The aesthetic is there. The environments are pretty top notch in this game. Like I'm really happy with what they're producing so far.
Yeah. No, I totally agree, and I feel like out of everything, the culmination of the maps, the sound, the just the everything feels organically Star Wars. And I think that's such a strong point of
Yeah,
this game is that some things in like the Jedi series
yeah.
obviously feels very Star Wars, but there's also stuff that just kind of feels a little more safe. Here it
I feel
very
like
much feels like,
Timefall.
hey, we're
Yeah,
making a little bit, yeah, yeah, absolutely, which makes sense because it's Respawn, but here
yeah,
it feels like the city is like when you're walking through and you're just seeing different, like, characters, species of aliens, just stuff that's even on the walls, the crates and everything.
yeah.
There's so much, attention to detail. It almost makes me feel like I'm walking through Galaxy's Edge, to be honest, where it feels like I'm in this like, kind of like a theme park setting and stuff like that. There's like little different things you can do. You can play like mini games. You lean on a bar overhear people. There's just people to interact with, and it makes it feel like more of like a place that's alive. And I'm to your point about, you know, different maps and stuff like that, I am very interested to know like the extent of the planets we go to, the environments we're seeing and stuff like that, because so far they're all very organically, authentically Star Wars, and I hope that keeps up from start to finish. I'm really eager to see. Hopefully they stay away from Tatooine. I really hope we don't have another
Yeah,
property in Star Wars that's like, hey, we're going back. I'm like, I'm good. Go
if I never
somewhere
go there
else.
again, yeah, never need to
Same.
go
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Yeah, maybe they do some stuff from like planets introduced in the sequel films, and maybe get to see them before the sequels. That would be kind of cool, or even places from the prequels. I don't know. There's a
There's so many
universe to
places they
explore.
could
Let's
go.
just
It's like, yeah,
avoid Tatooine, please. Please have
yeah,
some restraint.
yeah. Like it doesn't need to go there. We don't need to know what Luke's doing. We don't need to know what's going on in Tatooine.
Nope.
Like I said, no, it's good. Use your
Yeah.
imagination. Let Disney let these developers like just cook. Let them make planets that would probably never appear in the movies. Let like go wild with it. So I really hope we get that.
Absolutely.
And the two that we've seen so far, I'm pretty good with them. I like them. I just want to know how, like what the final tally is going to be for launch. Like I feel like it's going to be like 4 or 5 planets, and like that's more than enough. But make it diverse enough where it's like you get a nice jungle, you get a nice little seaside, you have like a little city you can explore. Like I want that, and that's
Hmm.
basically all I asked for. So
Yep.
this is the time. This is the time for Star Wars to do things that are not deserts.
Agreed. Agreed.
Yeah.
Even though one of the maps kind of was a little bit of a deserty, but
Yeah,
I
but it wasn't
digress.
like I don't feel like it's going to be like the main draw. Like every planet, I feel like it has enough substance to be like, well, this is pretty sizable.
Totally.
Yeah, that's what I think. Everything the 2 planets that we got to explore, they seem sizable. And like, I know the map was available to us, but we couldn't explore it. So like, I just looked at the map size and it looked pretty good on both planets that we looked at. So I'm interested.
I want
So
to talk about the maps a little bit, especially the in-city maps,
yeah,
because I feel like that's another pain point for this game where navigation
yeah,
feels pretty poor in terms of, hey, if I want to get to this specific pawn shop, this specific person,
yeah.
what did you notice like a way to bring up like an on-screen compass or mark point or anything like that? Because to me, it felt like I just had to constantly bring up my map and kind of go, okay, I gotta take a left here. I gotta find this building, enter there, go through
Yep.
here. Did was that
That,
the same for you?
that was my thing. That was my whole preview, and it was just like
Okay.
map. Where's the map? Look up the map. Okay, I gotta go here. I gotta make a left. I would remember it, close the map, and like, oh crap, I gotta look at the map again because it's just it
Yep.
as much as I like the layouts and stuff, I don't know them well enough. So I think that notion should be I should say it. I'm not familiar with the map, so I feel like that's on me to learn to know the maps. But at the same
Mhm.
time, there are people who don't care for that, and they just want to get to where they need to go. They don't need to. They don't want to know what's around the corner, what's at the cantina. They just want to get their loot and move on. And I feel like there should be some kind of compass. Maybe have like Nick's, maybe like trudge for a little bit and like point and kind of like sniff in this direction to go to where you want to go. Kind of
For
like in
sure.
Ghost of
Yeah,
Tsushima where
no.
like the wind, where the wind kind of like guides you to go to the next place. Have like
Yep.
Nix's nose point you in the right direction where you want to go.
Yep.
So yeah, no,
Now that being said, I do wonder if there'll be some sort of ability to unlock, because there, for people who may not know, there's an entire like perk ability upgrade system in which you can do specific tasks in the game and kind of unlock new abilities. For instance, one that I kind of was drawn to was this ability for Nyx, in which you had to get Nyx to fetch once, open a number of containers, and then Nyx would automatically give like an audio visual clue
Yeah.
or cue whenever you're close to a container. You could also hit up on the D-pad to kind of use the radar sense, and it would automatically ping a nearby container as well. So I do wonder if there's something in that ability system in which makes navigation a little easier. Because I totally agree that you can have a pin on your HUD,
Yeah.
but there's nothing telling you like, okay, if you go down this path, you're going to end up at that ping. You can get really lost in this game quickly, I found, because there so many, like for instance, the first area we were in, the first city, there's like different levels to it. You can go through and continue. You can just find yourself lost very easily. So I hope that there's something in there, because it
Yeah, I
was a
feel like
little frustrating.
it needs. I think. I mean, for the average player, I feel like it might be necessary. So
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they're going to use this time to figure this out, or maybe it's there. We
Mhm.
just didn't acknowledge it. I don't know. That's kind of where I
Maybe no,
have. I'm
that's
gonna leave it like that. Like I'm just gonna say I didn't,
yeah.
because I feel because we had someone watching us. It's like, well, I don't want to do anything to be like, hey, what are you guys doing? And like I know they kind of gave us free reign, but like it's just like, well, I don't
Right.
want to rock the boat and like go through the menu. But yeah, I mean, who knows? If it's there,
Yeah.
great. I mean, it'll probably help. But if not, I mean, what are we supposed to do? It's like I'll just have to make note of it whenever we review it. That's basically all I can
That's it.
do.
Yeah, it kind of feels like the Starfield thing where people, at launch got their hands on the game, went into those big cities, and they're like, "Oh, there's no map here. I'll make do. I'll get through it." It's just kind of it impedes that organic, free flowing kind of gameplay, but it's not breaking the game
Yeah,
in any way. It's just kind of a bummer. That's all.
it just I think you know what, when you have games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Mirage, and I feel like the maps there are pretty good. And we all
Very
know that
good. Yeah.
Ubisoft pulls development teams from all over the world to work on one game.
Yep.
Why maybe wasn't this suggested for Outlaws? Like, hey, you should probably put like a HUD where you can track your movements and where you want to go on the map, and like a guidance system. So like what, I don't know. That's another
I mean,
discussion.
especially when the Division has such a good navigation
Yep,
system. When you ping something, you get like the yellow line that comes through and
yep.
shows you exactly, hey, if you're going down 47th Avenue in New York
That's
City,
the thing.
turn left here. I
And
feel
that's the
like,
thing.
oh, it's such a missed opportunity to have that in this game in
And that's
some
the thing.
way that wouldn't be immersion breaking.
Yeah, and that's what kind of rocks my boat. It's like, well, Division has probably one of my favorites, so it's like, why not just put it in this game? I know that's whatever you want to call it. Like, I know it's just like it's copying what you've already done, but like what you don't have to break what's not broken. Like just put it in there and let it do what it's intended to do. Keep track of where I need to go and what missions I'm doing, and like that's all I ask in any game where it's like open world. You have like a list of missions you want to do, and it's just like just give me a way to manage them when I want to
Mhm.
attack them and just go to that direction. Yeah,
Yep.
it's frustrating, but whatever. We'll see what happens in a couple weeks. I mean, that's all I'm gonna leave it with that. I'm gonna see what happens in a couple weeks. Maybe they've adjusted or adjusted.
That's totally true. Yeah, there's still time to make adjustments, fine tune, refine stuff, or like I've said at the top, I wonder how much of these little gripes or stuff like that is just a case of, hey, you're in a distilled 3-hour demo. So many of
Yeah,
these systems can be mitigated, improved, tweaked in some way just by virtue of the final build of the game. I'm very interested to see that, because the other one that I'm this is a personal gripe of mine, but the rhythm based lock picking mechanic,
oh
I hate
man,
it.
I hate it
I think
so
it's so
much.
bad, and I hope that there's a way just to kind of, because
Skip
I
it.
didn't go too deep into the systems, but I'll skip that thing right away. That I just did not like that
It's not even that
whatsoever.
it's bad. You know what? I understand it. I understand what you need to do, but
Yeah,
it's not fun.
it's not
Like
fun.
it makes sense. It logically makes sense. You gotta time your button to the beat. So if it clicks once, you press it twice, or twice, you click it twice. But
Yep.
it breaks the flow so badly. It's like I can spend 5 minutes on one, and the other one I can do it instantly. And it's like, cool, but you know what? I just want to skip it. Let me skip it instantly. I don't even want to play it.
Yep.
I would pay $3 to skip that. I would pay $5 to
I
have
would.
auto
I
skip
honestly
on
would.
each. It's just
Because
so stupid.
it's like you said, it's not that it's a big deal, it's just that it's not fun. And when you have other puzzles and other things like the Wordle puzzle,
I
I
like
love that because it's creative, it's new, it's fresh, it's taking something that most of the world is familiar with and kind of distilling it into this
Yep.
Star Wars equivalent. And I had a lot of fun with that. But then, yeah, getting to the lockpick
Yep.
and failing it twice and just being like, "Well, my demos is just sitting here watching me. I'm frustrated. I just want to power through this again. I have the
Yep.
clicking clock going down. I know I'm going to be kicked out of this demo at a certain point. I just want to get through this. I don't want to have to deal with
Oh,
a
yep.
lock picking mechanic right now. I just want to play the game." And then, yeah, if there's an auto function in this, sign me up because I would not even like to play this aspect of the game in the full
Yep.
build. But
And that's what it comes down to. Like if they could, there's not, it's too late for that. If I could go back to when they were deciding to put that mini game in this game, I would say don't do it. But I don't have that ability. So for all those listening, pipe up and tell them you want them to give you an auto skip on that stupid mini game. It's so bad. It's just it really just, it's probably the worst mini game I played in the last 7-8 years easily. It's just, it doesn't
what's
flow.
wrong with the Skyrim one where you get the lockpick, you go around?
They
I like that
perfected it in
one.
Skyrim. It was perfect in
Yeah.
Skyrim. There's nothing wrong with that game. I think it's probably my favorite mini game. And I actively went out and made sure I did it properly, and I would find them, and I'd be happy to play that game. But now it's like, nope, this game sucks. I even think I mentioned it to my demo. It's like, I did not like this game, and I don't want to say he said I know what you mean, but in so many words, I think he was with me on that. So hey,
Yeah, I feel like it might be a little divisive, but aside from that, again, we've obviously had some nitpicks, some criticisms and stuff like that, but I think both of us had overall a positive experience with 4 hours of the game, a lot of eye-opening experience in terms of what we can expect when the game officially
yep,
launches next month. And a lot of stuff to look forward to as well. I mean, we talked about it at the top of the show, but the speed biker and just the world building in this game, I think, are two things that really stood out. Bobby,
yep.
was there anything else that we missed? Anything else in your notes that we didn't really touch on?
Nope. I was the only thing I had on my notes to bring up was that stupid mini game, and you pretty much beat me to it. So fuck that mini game. That's all I'm gonna say. Fuck that mini game.
I
Fuck it.
agree. I'm with you there. Did not like it. I'm sorry, Ubisoft Massive. You guys nailed so many great systems for your games, but that one's a miss for me. But I digress. Everyone out there, I really appreciate you guys taking the time to listen to our preview of Star Wars Outlaws. The game comes out next month on
Yep.
Xbox Series consoles, PlayStation 5, and PC on August 29th. Really looking forward to getting my hands on the final build of this game, seeing Cade and Nyx's story all the way through, start to finish, hoping that there's a lot of fun to be had despite a couple issues here and there. But yeah, very much looking forward to. Again, Ubisoft, thank you for letting us preview the game and talking about the game, drumming up a little bit of excitement here. But yeah, Bobby, where can people find your written preview and keep up with you online?
You can find our written preview on consolecreatures.com. You can find me at bpashalides on Twitter, Instagram, wherever. Bluesky, I'm there. Threads. Look at me. You'll look at me on there. You'll find me in the website and all our links below.
Love it. And as for me, you can find me across the internet at svigvari. I'll be putting up some additional thoughts and whatnot over this week. But yeah, the other thing I wanted to bring up, August going to be a huge month for us. We got a ton of exciting stuff on top of Star Wars Outlaws stuff. But be sure to stay tuned. More information is just around the corner. But until then, we appreciate you all, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.